Let's play a game. Congratulations, you're the Toronto Blue Jays. You're 59-49 and only 2 games behind the Astros for the first wildcard spot, looking to make a playoff push that can take you beyond the wildcard round, taking advantage of the young stars that are loaded in your lineup. To improve your team, you trade for Paul DeJong and Genesis Cabrera, but you can't help but feel like those two don't quite move the needle, although Cabrera does later turn his year around in Toronto. And you want to make sure that you can clinch a playoff berth, so you again look to the bullpen for a big splash. There are a couple of key trade pieces available, but most of them just bore you. You wish you could have gotten Aroldis Chapman and his fiery arm. But as your head hits the pillow to sleep on the rest of the trade deadline, you reminisce on your deals with the Cardinals. And that's when you remember that the Cardinals have a rental fire thrower of their own, who himself is throwing a 3.67 ERA this year. So you aggressively pursue him, trading away 2 pitchers, including your number 7 prospect Sam Robertsi, and just like that, you have traded for Jordan Hicks. Hicks had a very good contract year, and his time in Toronto was even better than his first half in St. Louis, throwing 24 innings to a 2.63 ERA. His strikeout rate suffered from the new setting, but his walk rate, which has always been a setback, nearly halved, and his whip dropped by 0.5. Simply put, Hicks took a step back to take multiple steps forward. Such a good 2023, especially after 2 rough seasons in 2021 and 2022, earned Hicks a solid free agency to be sought after, and sought after he was. The ultimate decision to sign to the Giants was fun for baseball fans, as a competitive Giants team would add even more chaos to the extremely interesting NL West, and extremely fun for Jordan Hicks. The Giants announced that they plan to make him a starter next year, marking his first season devoted starting. The decision came across as an interesting turn for the Giants, who signed into a 4-year, $44 million deal. The $11 million AAV reads more like a good reliever's contract, rather than the $20+ million a year contracts that starters have been signing this offseason. The contract is a massive win for the Giants. If Hicks works as a starter, the Giants just got an absolute steal, and if not, they still have a fair value for Hicks as a reliever. But can the Giants make that deal the value? The Giants signing of Hicks follows a recent Giants trend, signing starter projects and revamping them. In 2020, the Giants signed Kevin Gausman to restart his starting career. 2019 was a career low for Gausman, starting 16 games with the Braves with an ERA over 6, then being picked up off waivers by the Reds for bullpen use. The season overall was a disaster, but the Giants saw potential to make him a project. In the 2020 COVID season, Gausman threw 59.2 innings across 10 starts with a 3.62 ERA. The Giants found a way to make Gausman's stuff workable again. Gausman's renaissance in 2020 was fueled by 2 main fixes: pitch mix and location. The Giants brought back Gausman's changeup, increasing its usage from 3.4% in 2019 to 14.5% in 2020. An 11% increase in his changeup, as well as an increase in slider usage, let him increase his pitch mix since Gausman was essentially a 2-pitch pitcher in 2019. It's extremely hard for a starter to rely on just 2 pitches, with some exceptions being people like Spencer Strider, whose fastball and slider are some of the best in the league. Since Gausman's fastball was getting crushed, bringing in more off-speed to let him keep off balance, limiting his fastball's thrown. The Giants also elevated his fastball, which made it more effective, as it worked better with his splitter and other off-speed pitches. Gausman put his faith in the Giants' pitching coaches, and they revamped his career, bringing him to a career year in 2021 before he earned a 5-year, $110 million contract in Toronto. Without San Francisco, Gausman likely would have fallen into a bullpen role, which would limit his career. But now he has 3 consecutive top 10 Cy Young finishes and is the ace of the Blue Jays. Gausman isn't the only pitcher to put their faith in San Francisco to earn a long-term deal. Gausman's departure in 2022 opened a spot for another project, although much less dire. Carlos Rodon was coming off his first great year in Chicago, trailing a 2.37 ERA across 132.1 innings. The years prior had been extremely rough for Rodon, so a long-term deal was off the table. Instead of settling for a mediocre deal, Rodon took a 1-year prove-it deal in San Francisco, proving he could produce over a full season. Across 178 innings, Rodon threw a 2.88 ERA. And while the basic numbers regressed ever so slightly, he threw even more innings, but were still under a 3 ERA. The Giants didn't have to rebuild Rodon, but they offered a place with great pitching coaching that allowed him to earn a massive deal in New York. And while he hasn't quite worked out there yet, he's certainly in line for a major bounce back this year, especially now that the Yankees have improved as a team to take the pressure off of him. Another starter that's thrived due to the Giants' philosophy is Alex Cobb. Cobb has always been talented, but the Giants have turned him into a remarkably effective 150-plus inning pitcher for the last 2 years. Despite his age, the Giants have kept him effective, tossing 2 years of high 3 ERA ball. He likely can't keep that production up forever, as 2024 will be his age 36 season, but to keep Alex Cobb good and available is extremely impressive, and is a testament to the Giants' ability to maximize a pitcher's potential. The Giants have done it with Gausman, Rodon, and Cobb, all to varying levels of development. Who's to say they can't do it with Hicks? Jordan Hicks' talent is apparent by just watching him throw a heater. But in today's MLB, velocity alone doesn't guarantee you success, especially if Hicks is going to face batters multiple times in a game. Most high velo pitchers rely on high backspin fastballs, which fight against gravity to drop less than the average fastball, giving the illusion of the ball rising. Aside from added substances, the high backspin is primarily biological, and Hicks doesn't have it. So how does he continue to win with velocity despite a league average fastball? By using his fastball as a secondary pitch, primarily relying instead on a disgusting sinker. His sinker still averages 100 miles per hour, yet drops an extra 8 inches, which I've heard is too much anyway, to miss the barrel. With the elite velocity, a sinker with that much drop is truly devastating, but makes Hicks the hardest throwing ground ball pitcher. The sinker doesn't create many swings and misses, but helps create Hicks' elite 58.9% ground ball rate and keeps solid contact low, ranking in the 73rd percentile in hard hit rate. What projects well about his ground ball rate is that the Giants' Oracle Park is extremely pitcher friendly, keeping the ball in the ballpark, and the Giants were 9th in outs above average last year. With a good defense behind him, which would still be good even with the departure of Brandon Crawford, Hicks can keep his pitch count low by pitching to contact and letting his sinker and defense do all the work. Despite the high ground ball rate and low whiff rate on a sinker, Hicks still racks up strikeouts. Hicks has a 28.4% K rate, which is high for a ground baller, and what's even more promising for the long-term future is that he doesn't rely on batters chasing outside of the zone. Pitchers that rely on chases can struggle if their stuff regresses, but Jordan Hicks' ability to miss barrels without leaving the zone means he can maintain his success for longer, and even deeper into games as he stretches out. To miss bats, rather than to sinker missing barrels, Hicks mixes in a sweeper as his main secondary pitch, as well as sprinkling in his four-seam, slider, and changeup. Having those extra pitches to keep hitters honest will be the key to Hicks succeeding in the later innings of his starts, and allow him to be able to keep up his great K rate. The X factor in Hicks' success as a starter, other than just plain stamina, will be controlling the walks. Giving batters a free pass is nearly guaranteed to spell doom for pitchers, and the 14 starters who had 10% or higher walk rates averaged a 4.25 ERA. That doesn't seem too bad, but Blake Snell and Kodai Senga do some major lifting to lower that ERA. Without the work of Snell and Senga, the starters average over a 4.5 ERA. The Giants certainly don't envision Hicks giving them an ERA in the mid-4s, so walks will be the crucial factor. With his 11.2 walk percent, Hicks would have the 6th amongst qualified starters, which doesn't allude to sustained success as a starter. In Toronto, however, Hicks went from walking 5.2 batters per 9 innings to just 3, which would drop his walk rate to a paltry but still more reasonable 8.3%. The Giants' game plan for transitioning Hicks will certainly involve using the strike zone and ground balls to limit Hitch's picks out of the zone, which takes pressure off of their newfound starter. This year will be a transition year for Hicks, and he likely won't pitch more than 100 or so innings to manage his arm health, so who else is going to be throwing those innings in the Bay? The Giants have put full faith in their coaching staff to maximize their pitchers. Looking at the Giants' rotation next year, Logan Webb will continue to be their underappreciated workhorse, and their 2 through 5 offer a lot of potential to be a great staff. After Webb, the Giants have a multitude of options that could find themselves all throughout the rotation. Their number 1 overall prospect, lefty Kyle Harrison, has already had a big league cup of tea at the end of 2023, and will likely build on his success to be a good middle-of-the-rotation guy in his first full year, with plenty of potential to rise well above that middle-of-rotation expectation. The Giants also have number 16 Keaton Winup, whose taste of MLB wasn't bad either, especially if you ignore his lone blow-up start against the Dodgers. Between the two prospects, there's already plenty of star potential to fill in behind Logan Webb. The Giants have even more pitching talent that has to fit in as well. The new project of Jordan Hicks, who will likely throw 100 to 150 innings in his first pro season as a starter. Alex Cobb, who continues to find success against all odds in his twilight years. And the new addition of Robbie Ray, who will come back from injury this season. If the Giants can keep their magic and keep Cobb productive, revamp Robbie Ray from injury, and successfully transition Jordan Hicks into a starter, San Francisco will have 6 solid options to fill out the rotation. And since 5 of those 6 will likely have somewhat limited innings, this really is a dream scenario. With 5 options to fill 4 rotation spots, the innings can be distributed well, and if one of these potential starters struggles mightily or gets injured, they have the wiggle room to move him to the bullpen and let him work it out. The Giants have put themselves in a great position to have one of the MLB's under-the-radar rotations, and that all starts with a new age of Jordan Hicks as a starter.